Hey there, Streakers. Have you ever heard the phrase, you can do hard things? Have you ever used it to motivate yourself for one reason or another? Have you ever heard anyone else say it to you in preparation for something that they might consider you think is hard? The question I have is, what does it even mean? What does it mean, hard things? What are some of the things that saying that phrase help us to do that we wouldn't otherwise do? Or is it just a whole bunch of hogwash and it's not something that we should use at all? That's what we're going to explore today on the Streaking Podcast. I'm looking forward to it, so let's start streaking. What is streaking and why should you do it?
Streaking is how you set up personal winning streaks. Look at who you want to be and what you need to do to become that person. This is streaking.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are streakers. Through 30 years of marriage and 7 children, we have learned the power of consecutive consistency or streaking.
To start streaking is simple. You just follow these 3 laws. Make it laughably simple, keep a record, and join the streaking community.
Streaking is your hidden superpower. With it, you will consistently progress and grow in whatever area of life you want.
In this podcast, Jeff and I will share all the fun, exciting, serious, solemn, wonderful parts of family, spiritual, professional, and personal life, and how streaking powers it all.
So join us in the conversation, join the movement, and start streaking today. You can do hard things. Now, I'm without my co-host today. She will be back with us next week. I know that we had promised you that we were going to continue on the conversation that we had as far as the blocks or barriers to being successful or continue to be successful based on the TED Talk that we've been discussing. And we're going to get back to that. This is just a little interlude of an episode. When my co-host is back with me, when Jamie's back with me, we'll get back into that conversation. I had an individual say to me, "You can do hard things," recently. And I thought to myself, what does that even mean? You can do hard things. And why is it that we use that particular phrase? What is it about that we are looking to do in regards to hard things? I don't know if your mother has ever said to you, "You can do hard things." I think that sometimes that's what we put it in the context of. It's, someone's complaining or whining or actually, I'll tell you an actual experience. We were in Breckenridge for our family vacation. We often go to Breckenridge. It's one of the places where we love. And we had decided to climb Mount Quandary. Mount Quandary is one of the 14,000-foot peaks that is just outside of Breckenridge and is one of those that most everyone can climb. And what I mean by that is there's no special equipment that's needed. You don't need to get your ice pick and your crampons. All you need is basically an early morning arrival and then walk up the mountain. Are there steep parts? Yes. Do you run out of oxygen? Yes. Is the top very windy and not always pleasant? Yes. However, most everyone can make it. If you don't have a major physical condition, you're going to be able to make it to the top of Mount Quandary. We decided to do this for one of our family vacations, and I brought Chance and everyone else. So Chance is our youngest, and this is a few years ago that we did this hike. And if you've listened to the podcast for quite some time, you know that we highlighted this. This is a couple of years ago that we highlighted this particular experience. Interestingly, and I will confess, I will tell the story on myself, that I had asked, or Chance had put on a long pair of pants and and a coat. It looked like it was going to be a very warm day, and I had forgotten how cold it can get at the top of a 14,000-foot peak. And so I said, "Chance, I don't think you'll need long pants. Just, wear your shorts." Well, he needed the long pants. It got cold. As we progressed to the summit of Mount Quandary, the conditions got worse, in that it was blowing, it was cold, it was miserable. And I remember Jamie sitting down with Chance, who did not want to go on. He's like, "I'm miserable, I'm it." And we were literally 300 feet from the peak, but the peak was still 300 feet away. And Jamie, I remember, looked at him straight in the face and said, "Chance, we can do this. We can do this." And that courage from the mother, almost saying we can do hard things, but not quite those words, but "we can do this," got him off of that particular rock on which he was sitting and helped him to continue up to the top. We got to the top. He was there for a few minutes, and then immediately we started back down. Was what Jamie said the motivation that Chance needed in order to get to the top? I would say to you, absolutely. Did she say to him, you can do hard things? Or did he feel like, I can do hard things? And what does hard even mean? Well, in this situation, it seemed to be a physical as well as a mental challenge. And I think that that is some of the times that what we say when we can do hard things, it's a challenge of some sort. It's a physical challenge. It's a mental challenge. I'm solving a problem that's never been solved before. I'm going to do something physically that I've never done before. That can be a hard thing. And I think by saying to ourselves, I can do hard things, what we're indicating is, I have within me the ability to do this. I can go after it. But not all things that are hard are physical challenges. I think that that's most of the time where the category is placed is in the physical or mental challenge. But what about some other areas where you look at some of the things as far as hard? So we got physically challenging. Hard can be emotionally uncomfortable, having a tough conversation or grieving a loss or forgiving someone that has hurt you. That's hard, don't you think? Or how about the unpleasant? Cleaning out the garage. Actually, I enjoy cleaning out the garage. But filing taxes, isn't this the time where we're doing that? It's where it's put upon us, and it's not something necessarily that we chose. Getting up at 5 a.m. for that streak you promised yourself you'd keep alive. Remember, we got to keep those streaks laughably simple, and maybe getting up by 5 a.m. is not laughably simple. We'll talk about the hard in laughably simple in just a second. There's also the hard of what is unnatural or new. It's a change. You're starting a business. You're learning to do or conquer a skill, and this goes a little bit to the mental skill of say, computer programming or raising kids, or in my case right now, playing the piano, getting back to playing the piano. Now, perhaps the most underrated and the place where I want to spend just a little bit of time today of hard is the things that you don't choose. Now, you might say to me, Jeff, what do you mean? The things that I don't choose? So in other words, there's hard things that are placed upon me that I don't choose, or you have it chosen for you. Now, I don't mean we just talked, grieving the loss of a loved one or forgiving someone. Obviously, one, you didn't choose to be offended, or maybe you do choose to be offended. I don't know. We could talk about that for a little bit, but you didn't choose for someone to intentionally try to hurt you, and you didn't choose necessarily a loss. But what about when you have someone is asking of you, such as a boss, the organization for which you work, a loved one, or perhaps even a calling from God, something that you feel you need to do that you have not necessarily chosen. Now, you can choose whether or not to do it. I am a big believer that I totally disagree with the phrase, you have to do this. You do not have to do anything. You do not have to do something someone else asks you to do. Now, the consequence of not doing it may be unpleasant. For example, if you're in employment and your boss asks you to do something and you choose not to do it, it might be unpleasant because you may be reprimanded, you may be put on performance plan, you may be let go. Those are the consequences of you choosing, but you do not have to do it. So the next part of this is when you have a job, a responsibility, something that you enjoy most of, and then you're asked to do something that you do not want to do, that can be ultimately hard. And it doesn't seem that the phrase, I can do hard things, really fits in that instance, but it does. It does fit in that instance. Because let's just take a look at it, all right? And let's go to your career, what it is you're doing in your job. There is probably, if you're in a job that you enjoy, 80% of that job that you're enjoying. And you may have challenges that are hard, but you enjoy climbing the heights of those challenges. Just recently, I spoke at one of the most revered companies in the United States and just had a wonderful time. The individuals there were fantastic. I had a 45-minute talk, and it was a challenge because I wanted it to be something that was specific to them. And I needed to incorporate some of the different principles that we have, that we've worked with, that I've worked with them and many others on our team over the last 10 years. It was a hard challenge to meet to. It was 500 of their leaders across this very large organization. And I felt challenged. I mean, before this, I had been preparing. Basically, I'd started preparation for it about 2 months prior to the meeting. And then it came to a climax 2 weeks, and then 1 week, and then the 3 days before. And even the night before, I had just a couple of more changes. And the morning of, there was something else that came to my mind that was for the conclusion. I couldn't quite get the conclusion of this particular keynote. And then this came to being, and I thought, that is the conclusion. And it was the work that went up to that was challenging. Now, did I say to myself, I can do hard things during that time? I'll be honest with you, I didn't. I didn't say it at all. Was it hard? Yes, it was. Was I up for the challenge? Yes, I was. So doing that hard thing was something I was actually enjoying. I want to go after it. But I would say to you, you can do hard things, we can do hard things, is more about it's hard when we're being asked to do it, and it's not necessarily something that we enjoy. It may even be part of our job or our responsibility, but we do not enjoy it. It's not something I want to do. It feels hard because it's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. I have unwillingness to do it. I've got an allergic reaction. I just want to spend the time over here on this thing that I really enjoy. And these physical challenges that may be hard, but I want to scale them. So that is the hard that I want to focus in on just a little bit today, because as I thought about this and considered it, that's where I believe we as individuals, especially as we consider what the hard is that we're being asked to do, where we need to consider the consequences of not doing it, not necessarily focus on the why it's hard. It's what happens if I choose not to do it, and what happens if I choose not to do it with excellence. Can I do that hard thing or the thing that I'm being asked with excellence? Now, there is a whole nother level of opportunity. Can I make it something that's challenging for me? Can I look at it as expanding what my knowledge base might be? And it may be none of those things. It may be just a completely meticulous task that you need to accomplish for the position and responsibility that you hold. You can acknowledge it's tough. And you can also acknowledge that you enjoy the work that you do. Now, if you don't enjoy the work you do, in other words, if the whole job is hard all of the time, and when I say whole job, I mean 100% of the time, or not 100%, 80% of the time. If you're looking at that, it may be time for a change. It may be something that you look at and think, you know what? I need to do something different, because I don't mind a hard challenge, but if the whole job is hard and it's not something that you're enjoying the consequences of, then it may be time to make a switch. But if there is that particular area where you are seeing what you can do in your career, and that there are some hard things right now, maybe because of changes that were made, maybe because of systems that are broken, and you now need to do the hard work of putting together any number of data sets and not having the information behind it, and you don't enjoy that type of work, but you enjoy everything else that you're doing, that could be hard. And now when you say to yourself, I can do hard things, what are you actually saying? What is it that you are giving yourself as far as that little pep talk? I believe what I'm saying at that particular point in time is I really enjoy what I do. This particular part of it, I don't. And I can still do it with excellence. So what do? How do you make it work for you? It's not denying the fact that this is hard. In fact, the acknowledgement of it takes some of the power away from it. And that matters. Because I believe that too often we try to downplay the hard things. This is no big deal. Just get over it. It's not that bad. Or maybe I complain about it too much, or I'm complaining about it or whining about it because I just don't want to do it, or I procrastinate it. What if I acknowledge that, you know what, this is really hard for me to do? And it's not hard for me to do for any other reason that I just don't enjoy doing it. It's not something that I want to sink my teeth into. I would more so like to sink my teeth into these 6, 7 other things I get to do in my job. For me specifically, to look at and to prepare for a keynote speech or to do a client meeting. Those are enjoyable parts of the job, but they're hard. They're a challenge that I meet up to. But being asked to do expense reports, for example, for me, I do not enjoy it. That is a hard thing for me to do. Being able to get very meticulous on my forecast, that's hard for me to do. And it's not that it doesn't need to be done. It's just I just don't enjoy it. It's not something that presents any type of an enjoyable challenge. So when I'm looking at it, I'm saying to myself, this is hard. And in doing hard things, can I do this? Yes. Now, does that phrase actually work for you? When you're leading a team or raising a family or just trying to keep your streaks alive, you can do hard things is not a magical phrase. It will not make what it is you're striving to do any easier. Now, you may look at me and say, "You'll duh, Jeff, that's why I'm saying it." But it can be a powerful pattern. It doesn't remove the hardship, but it does remove the surprise that it's hard. When you look at this particular task that you've been asked to do, that resistance that I have toward it can now turn to resilience, or take the pain that I feel in it to the purpose. Is there a higher purpose for this? And there may not be, but is there something that I can derive from it that will allow me to progress and to be even better? So, now, psychologists call this distress tolerance, which is the ability to withstand emotional discomfort while pursuing a goal. It's one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. Now, just think about that for a second. This whole distress tolerance, what it is you strive to do when asked to do it. Remember, that's where I'm focusing everything. It's not on the physical and mental challenges. It's all in this area of being asked to do some things that you don't want to do, and that's hard. Why would this give you long-term success? First, I believe that in the brain, you're connecting neurons that haven't been connected before. And also, you're starting to look at what has been asked of you in a different light. You're striving diligently to meet the needs of who it is that's asking you, maybe of the business or of your boss, but you're striving to meet those needs and see from their point of view. By the way, the boss may not be wanting to ask you to do the things that they need done. However, the requirements of what we do in life often include things that we do not want to do. And therefore, when you put in distress tolerance and you start to consider differently how these hard things how to do these hard things and to give them a purpose of some sort, now you can start to achieve a greater opportunity because you're doing that which a lot of people don't choose to do. I'm going to tell you that right now in our day and age, and you've seen this. There is a lot of individuals who will say, that's not my job. That's not what I want to do. I'm going to do what feels good. There are a lot of reasons to do that. And I'll tell you that there is a lot of satisfaction that comes from not only the challenges that you enjoy and the hard that you enjoy, but also from fulfilling a request that was hard and meticulous and you didn't want to do, but it gave you greater perspective in the long run. When you talk about it's the strongest predictor of long-term success, the more you train yourself to do these hard things, the ones that are put upon you, the more that your capacity will grow. not just to do, but to become. Doing hard things or doing what is asked of us doesn't just change what we achieve. It changes who we are and who we can become. Now, you know me, and you've been listening to the Streaking Podcast for quite some time, or if you're new to it, hi, thanks so much. We're glad you're here. Consistency is one of those areas that I had struggled with forever. If you look back in my past, prior to streaking, consistency, I was all over the map with consistency. And I wasn't necessarily always doing what my leaders had asked me to do. I would rebel against that. I would have this ultimate, feeling of, no, I'm not going to do that. And I would come up with all kinds of good reasons as to why I wouldn't do that. I'm doing other things that are much more important to the business than what you're asking me to do. Really, you want me to fill out this report and take away from the opportunity to get another client? All of those terms have been weaponized through time. And honestly, it slowed me down quite significantly. One of my streaks, I'll just let you know, was the streak to right now today is 10 or less emails in my inbox every day. There was a reason as to why I started that streak, is because it was hard when people would ask me things that I didn't have the answer to, or that I just didn't want to answer right away. And therefore, I'd put off answering them. And what happened is it got reported back to my boss that this was something that people were complaining about. And he basically said to me, if you don't change this, we may have to change you. I then went about thinking, okay, what can I do in order to make this a better situation? I decided that who I wanted to be was more responsive. In order to be responsive, the action of having 10 emails or less in my inbox at the end of every day, that gave me the operational metric that I could use in order to be responsive. Are there other messages that I get? Sure. Via text, via Teams instant messaging, via Zoom instant messaging, WhatsApp. There's a lot of communication apps that are out there today. And for most, and what I found is as those have come more and more popular, I have, because of the streak that I have of 10 or less emails in the inbox at the end of the day, have been equally responsive in those areas. It basically changed my whole behavior and it changed my brand. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Whereas I was looked at before as unresponsive, I was now considered responsive. Even when I didn't have an answer right away, I could say, I do not have an answer. I do not know what that is, but I'm going to be working on that for you. Here's a time frame in which I can get that answer. That's how so that was a hard thing for me. And setting a streak, and you may look at it and say, Jeff, 10 emails or less in the inbox at the end of the day does not seem laughably simple. I'll tell you, it's a forced laugh. It's on the edge of laughably simple. What I have done, though, with that particular streak has been much better at making decisions. So when you're talking about doing hard things, setting a streak is a hard thing. Remember we talked all the way in the beginning a little bit about laughably simple. And I've also talked before as far as don't get out of your comfort zone, expand it. How do you do that? Because these things seem to be at odds at times, right? I have a desire to do hard things, but I want to be comfortable. Often hard things are not comfortable, but I need to expand my comfort zone. How do I do that? That's why I get into the streak of laughably simple, because the hard of laughably simple is not in the activity. It's in the doing it every single day. The laughably simple activity of responding to email. When it comes in, I'm going to respond to it. I'll maybe schedule it. And that I hesitate to say this, and I kind of am catching myself because you may be looking at it saying, Jeff, that is not laughably simple. But we can make it laughably simple. One of the areas that this streak of 10 or less emails in my inbox at the end of every day has done for me as well is it's given me the opportunity to be a better decision maker. And so that, And keeping that going, it does make it easier to keep 10 in there, because I know at the end of the day, I got to figure out something to do with any of the emails that have come in, reduce my junk mail, everything else, but I've ultimately become more responsive. So it's staying true to your streak, even when the results are not immediate. I've just described to you a streak where I've seen the results, but guys, I've had that streak now, I think, for 5, almost 6 years. I got to look at it now that we're talking about it. As I look at my streaks here, just open up the My Streaks app. Oh, I'm logged in. Oh, got to tell you guys, just a little sign. I've been testing challenge streaks. It is so cool. I cannot wait for you to be able to have it in your hands. The challenge streaks on the My Streaks app, game changer. You're going to be able to invite people to a challenge, be it a week, a 7-day challenge, a 90-day challenge, or up to a year challenge. You'll be able to see people that are in the group. It's really, really cool. And you can set up your own personal challenges. And by the way, here's one of the things we've done for a limited time. We don't know for how long, but limited. We're going to make challenge streaks where you can have as many challenge streaks as you like. It doesn't count against your streak total. Now, there is method to the madness of why we have the streak total that we do, because putting in that particular obstacle helps to slow everyone down. We found when we didn't have that obstacle, everyone was logging, 10, 20, 30 streaks, and then they were dropping out of the program. Whereas now what we found is that people have started to log their streaks, and because they're earning more streaks along the way, they've actually stuck with it. It's really an interesting phenomena. Let me get this. I got to put in my password because, okay, I'm telling you how many streaks. So back to the talk track. When we look at, and I'll look at it as, let's see here, professional. I think it's in there. 10 emails or less in the inbox at the end of every day. 3,314 days and counting. So to translate that into years, 3,314 days divided by 365, 9 years, guys. 9 years I've had that in my streak. And it has made a huge, huge difference. Huge difference. Okay, but again, why am I taking the time to go through all of that? Hard things. There's hard things that you enjoy and you can do those. There's challenges that you can overcome that are hard and you can do those. The hard that I'm speaking about here is the hard that someone else asks you to do and you just don't want to do it. So when you're staring down something that feels hard, something that is just uncomfortable or not chosen, remember, hard does not mean that it's going to be something you enjoy or a challenge you look to accomplish. And honestly, right at the end of it, you may not even have the victory lap. You may not even raise your hand. I mean, when I get done with taxes, I do not go, yes, I accomplished taxes, like we did at the top of the 14er. It is a little bit of a relief. It is something that has to be done. Can I do it? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. Can we accomplish it? Yes. And what are the consequences? And this is where I go back to, what are the consequences if you don't do it? And what are the consequences if you do? So when you whisper to yourself, I can do hard things, I can do this, I can do this hard thing. You're not really just pushing through. You are stepping into the person who you want to be, which is someone that is responsive, someone that is professional, someone that when asked, even though it's not part of the job, you step up to the challenge. And I'm promising you right now, it's worth every ounce of effort. Thanks so much for listening in today. I enjoyed the conversation and exploring this whole idea of you can do hard things. I hope you have as well. If you wouldn't mind shooting me an email and letting me know what your thoughts are, love to hear that. You can shoot me an email at Jeffery, Jeffery, at mystreaksapp.com, mystreaksapp.com. That will send it directly to me. I respond, as you know, because I just reiterated it here with you again today. 10 emails or less in the end of the edge of the inbox, or in the inbox at the end of the day. I will respond to you. Also, in the My Streaks app, anytime you want to give feedback, I actually get that in my inbox as well. Right now, the My Streaks app, we have 31,000 users worldwide. There's more and more people setting streaks all the time. You should really take a look at the Explore underneath the feed. If you go to feed and explore, you're going to be able to see that there are, and it's pulling up for me right now, it's thinking about it, 711,928 streaks that are complete to date since the app's inception. Absolutely fantastic. So take a look at that. Until we talk together again, I hope that you have a fantastic, marvelous, wonderful day. And as always, keep streaking.